special occasion that was last night was in Yankee Stadium with Aurora and my mother and my wife Lauren. And it was cold and it was rainy. And the Yankees did not hit until the ninth inning, and they still came up short. But it didn't matter because I got to bring Aurora in. She got to see the green grass. She had her first Yankee Stadium hot dog. It was a good time. And all along the way, I knew this is beautiful. Soak it up. And then tomorrow, I had a great deal to come back to the studio at 7 o'clock to hang out with you guys. And tonight, we're going to have a wonderful guest or two. In the studio is Jay Gulanello. Jay Gulanello is my nutritionist friend. He's a based nutritionist. How are you, sir?
I haven't been called that in a long time, Frank.
The based nutritionist.
Yeah, that was the way you first referred to me, I believe.
Yeah, well, you're based.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I know. Animal based, of course.
That's true, too.
That's that.
That's true, too, which may be shocking for some people. Whenever I get up on stage and do a talk somewhere, people assume I'm going to just talk about kale and salads all day long.
Yes.
They're like, oh, this guy's a little different.
Oh, yeah.
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 He's either crazy or he's right. He's nuts or he's right on track.
Well, tonight we get to, the reason why I wanted you in here in the studio tonight is because I wanted to talk to you about regenerative farming with a really great guest. His name is Eric Perner.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get around to that right now because I just want to start the night off. So Jay is in here. We have Eric Perner coming in. He went from horse jockey to oil and gas executive, and now he's a cattle rancher.
That's similar to my path.
And tonight, we're going to talk to him about how regenerative agriculture can save all categories of life on the planet, including the planet itself. Because you know what? It's not a liberal thing to think about conservation. We got to take care of our home here. They've made conservation seem lame because they have destroyed it with environmentalism, and it's all about cap and trade and centralizing every response that you can to what are probably some necessary problems to address. But anyway, given the subject matter, we got Jay Gulanello here, Perpetual Health CO on Instagram and on Rumble.
Yes, sir.
So he's here tonight, and that's what we got going on. And then in the second half, after we hop off with Eric Perner around 8 o'clock, then it's going to be open lines for you guys and gals at home because we want some Liberation Day thoughts and all that coming in. And there you have it. Other than that, check out quitefrankly.tv for all upcoming guests on the guest schedule there as the schedule continues to expand into May now. And with that, I would like to say one more thing before we just open it all up. I'd like to thank Badlands Media for welcoming Quite Frankly onto the platform over here for the month of April. And hopefully we can do more than that. We will see. But I've got a lot of great guests planned for Thursday nights. And I hope that when the phone lines open up in the second half, many of you Badlanders who are watching for the first time, call in for the first time to share some of your thoughts on any range of topics that we have going on over here. But to you OG Franklies and Franciscans, whether you're watching on YouTube or Rumble or quitefrankly.tv, Twitter, wherever the hell it is, it's good to be back. It's good to see you all. I hope you found yourself a nice cozy spot that your ass fits perfectly into, molded to your ass. And let's get this one started. We will be right back.
Go ahead, Watchtower.
This is the Joker speaking. You're tuned in Quite Frankly. When you see the ants, remove your pants.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's run!
Right. So, Jay, did you have a good Liberation Day? I forgot to ask you just straight out.
Yeah, it was great.
Good.
It was wonderful. I remember the first time I went to a baseball game, like a big league game, and saw the grass at Fenway Park.
Fenway,
I'll never forget it.
I like Fenway.
Yeah.
I've
Like
been there quite a few times, 2 times.
You walk up those stairs and you just see that green grass. There's something truly unforgettable about that. I remember it vividly.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's a cool experience. I'm
I
glad
wish
you had that.
I wish there was more classic stadiums left, to be honest.
know,
That's one thing that Boston does have, 1912.
Yeah.
You know, that stadium was built the year that the Titanic sank. Well, I mean, at least it
That you
opened.
had nothing to do with each other.
It opened the year the Titanic sank. Yeah,
Yeah.
one had did not beget the other. Anyway, so listen, here's what we got going on tonight. As we all know, that'll be in the second half. I really hope that people tune in and for the second half and be a part of it. I have another great thing to announce. This building is safe.
Oh, I saw that.
For at least for now, the building is safe. It is remaining commercial. They took down the public notice signs. The management offices sent a email out to all the tenants here. The building is safe. It's not going to be. He's not seeking permits to redevelop it.
Okay.
So for us, that means that the studio that I have and Anthony and Mike has spent, now it's going to be 10 years in December. We get to continue working on this place to bring it up to the next level, because we still have not. I want this to be a place where we can have live performances on air. I want to be able to link that performance room on the other side of the compound over there to this room, so that I can get musical performances live on air and stuff like that. And that's all in the works for not only 25, but going forward into 26, 27, and whatever the hell else.
Yeah.
At least there's not going to be a wrecking ball going through the studio. That's all I care about.
It's good news on a Thursday.
I know, on a Thursday. So just so you guys know, I don't think I'll be able to, I don't know. I think April 28th, I don't have to take the night off now, but we'll see.
All right.
Okay, so building is safe. Well, what else do you want to talk about in the couple of minutes before we have Eric show up? Because there's so much. There's a little bit more on the. You had a JFK hearing that you were watching.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, what did you think about the JFK
You
hearing?
put me in a bad mood.
A lot was learned, wasn't it?
So much.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, on the heels of talking so much about it the last time I was in, and just my love for it since high school, I felt like I was watching like a high school cafeteria drama play out in what should have been such a serious setting. You had some of the foremost experts in this assassination, some of whom have been researching the Kennedy assassination literally since the 60s. I mean, some of them have written about nothing else but this. And I just was shocked at how unprepared the Republicans were. As I said, a couple of the Republicans asking questions were mistaking Oliver Stone for Roger Stone, and I get it, it's the same name, but come on. Like, what kind of preparation is that, right? And the questions that were being asked, they weren't detailed enough. You've got people that know more about this, that had devoted their whole life to this. And then you've got the other party, the party formerly known as Democrat, who are supposedly trying to get to the truth of what happened to one of their own presidents. Kennedy was one of their own.
I know.
But thus proving that he actually represents nothing that the party now represents nothing that he stood for. They took every opportunity, Frank, every single one of them said Trump more than they said John F. Kennedy or Lee Harvey Oswald. It was a disgrace.
Well, I saw a little bit of. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I did see that Muppet Jasmine Crockett just a little bit with the signal.
Yeah, she had to bring that back up, of course.
Yeah, it's just well, you listen. The whole signal thing, the signal app thing with Pete Hegseth and everybody and Mike Waltz. That was one of those situations where the media was trying to manufacture a W.
Yeah.
Like that resembled anything like they were able to do between 2017 and 19. Mm-hmm. It's been L after L after L with them the last few months. So I knew just give it 72 hours and be gone. but damn, man, yeah, it's clawing.
I don't know. You would think that with a party that's suffering so dramatically, their approval numbers are some of the lowest I've ever seen. I feel like a recent poll I saw was like their approval rating or their positive in Congress rating for Democrats is like 21%. It's unbelievably low. It's just pathetic. You'd think that this would be like a universally positive thing. Like, hey, we're trying to get to the bottom of the assassination of a president. Never mind president who was a Democrat, right? This is the perfect opportunity to just be nonpartisan because there's just no reason to be partisan because it happened in 1963. They cannot help themselves because they're either completely, they just lack intellectual curiosity or their script didn't have the words John F. Kennedy on it. Their script had the word Trump, 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 and it was just a fever dream and it was embarrassing. And again, you had a room full of some of the most, expert people on this that have written books and made movies on this. You could have asked them anything, and they asked them nothing.
Well, I think that is really going that kind of context into a hearing that I thought was, I mean, like I said, I'm surprised I watched a couple of minutes that I did.
Yeah.
Because I don't expect anything really dazzling to come out of this. We're talking about absolute mongrels who are in Congress, both sides.
The best of us, Frank. The best of us.
The best of us. They've reached the top. But it goes hand in hand with understanding how people are perceiving the tariffs.
Right.
And what we're dealing with right now with any kind of reprioritization of something that would be commonsensical in a domestic sense if you actually loved your country or you want to see your home succeed. It's commonsensical that you don't that you go out there and you represent your best interest because everybody else is representing theirs. So there are so many people who are just non-starters in this conversation because there is a trigger point where you lose any kind of sense of what would be an autonomous human being, and they just fall into contrarian stances.
Yeah.
I need to be over here because he's over there, and your perception and your perspective shifts, in relative ways. So I don't know. It's the same over and over again. So that's why again I'm always praying for something supernatural to happen every day.
Well, and what we talk about here all the time is when RFK was confirmed, we had people researching how to fluoridate their own water. Because obviously fluoride has to be good if Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy want to remove it from the water, right? So this inability to assess even just personal risk and say, well, even though I don't like this person personally, for whatever reason, I don't know them, but I don't like them because my team doesn't like them. You're even willing to put your own health in jeopardy by not doing due diligence because you despise this person. That is a whole other level of cognitive dissonance or intellectual dishonesty or whatever you want to call it. It's shocking to me that people can behave this way. But, you remember the guy chugging the bottle of seed oils?
Dude,
what is wrong with people?
Before we introduce the guest, because Eric is here.
Okay.
I saw this guy, some pipsqueak of a guy. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was in Florida or somewhere else, but he got up to make some sort of he's delivering a monologue about how backwards we are right now because we think we're getting whatever. For example, he said, it's beyond me to think that we would want to give our children, he's talking specifically about fluoride in the water. It's beyond me that we would want to give our children cavities just to own the libs. And he's saying this is not a joke. It's not a joke.
I know it's not.
It wasn't satire. That this was a world that we were at the peak of social services by dumping fluoride into the water, and because of that, our children don't have cavities anymore.
Neurotoxins do create wonderful smiles, Frank.
It's almost as if it's almost like what does that mean? Like you can brush your teeth as much as you like, but if you're not drinking the water, you're still. I mean, it's so stupid. Listen, we're dealing with it. There's a lot. Let's just get on to with what we have going on over here. One resounding theme, ladies and gentlemen. One resounding theme on this show now for years has been local action to fix broad spectrum problems. And whether we're talking about education or medicine, media, conservation, food, and beyond. Well, tonight we're going to be combining many of those topics in a conversation with our guest, Eric Perner. Eric spent 10 years, listen to this, competing nationwide as a professional jockey.
That is cool.
After which he retired and completed his mechanical engineering degree at University of Tulsa. After college, he held several executive roles in the oil and gas industry. and now serves as a full-time cattle rancher and his co-founder, CEO of Rep Provisions, a direct-to-consumer provider of regenerative meats from local family farms. Eric, I am so happy to have you on with us tonight. How have you been?
Good to be on. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, well, I also want to introduce you to my co-pilot this evening, and that is Jay Gulanello. Jay, say hello to Eric.
Eric, it is a pleasure to have you on. What you do is so necessary in the world, and it's going to be a great conversation.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate that. Yeah, we love the work we're doing. We think it's really impactful for human health, planetary health, all these things we can get into.
Well, before we get into that, I have to ask you because we won't spend too much time on this, but I want to know a little bit about the life of a jockey. Just from an athletic standpoint, I mean, that's just what's the day-to-day grind there? Obviously, you have to stay light, so you probably were fasting a lot. What were you doing to stay light so the horses weren't overburdened?
Yeah, that's the hardest part, and yeah, you're right. It was fasting every day, and on top of that, hitting that sweat box every day.
Oh.
So that was a daily occurrence for me for 10 years. Really exciting, time, for me as I was young, just wanted to do something fun and different. I had this background in riding horses my whole life growing up. So took that path for a while. But yeah, it was a very exciting lifestyle. And it really kind of taught me how to manage large animals, how to communicate, how to talk to them, to kind of understand their language. And I think that helps me today in ranching as well. So it was a big impact on my life. I
can imagine that. And I have some questions specifically about healthcare of animals, whether they are for sport, that is like a teammate at that point. A jockey and his horse, you're essentially a team. I think that you can't remove one component or the other, obviously. So I'd love to know about that just as we go on with how just maintaining the health of animals and how your approach differs from what is now recommended across the board, especially in time of great sickness like the bird flu. There's things we got to discuss there. What was your pivot point because we know that you went from jockeying back to school, and then from there, you're in the oil and gas industry. How do you pivot point from oil and gas to where you are right now? Because that's the most important, the most striking transition, I think.
Yeah, it was a big shift for sure. The result of me entering oil and gas industry was just basically, I had a degree at the time. It was where all the jobs were at the time. And so I kind of ended up that path because those were the best options for me at the time. And I'm very grateful for that. We need energy. We need oil and gas. I mean, there's a way in how we do it and how we produce it that can make a difference. But I would never knock that industry. I think there's ways we can improve, but it really kind of geared me towards here. I'm in this one industry that is highly extractive. That's what they do. They extract hydrocarbons from deep underground. And what I'm doing in ranching is kind of the opposite. Like we're trying to store carbon in the ground more and improve healthy soil. So went from an extractive industry to a more kind of regenerative one. And I learned a lot from it, but it is a striking difference and a big pivot for me. But very grateful for all that I learned from it.
I can see where that link between the food and energy sectors start to form there. And I know that that's in a lot of the bios that I read on you as well, that the work that you do right now, it's meant to impact energy as well. Now, it's not apparent to me exactly how that is at the moment. Maybe we'll get around to that as the conversation moves on. But let's start with the basic tenets of regenerative farming, because there's a lot of people who are hearing about this concept for the first time right now. They might think it's a little bit self-explanatory, but perhaps there's a little bit more nuance to it because we talk to homesteaders on this show and whatnot. But what are your major tenets of regenerative farming for those who are new?
Yeah, I would say it's basically focusing on soil health principles. And one thing I'd like to tie that back to oil and gas. There's a big debate in this country around oil and gas emissions from CO2. And I'm sure you guys have talked about this past. So additional carbon in the atmosphere from oil and gas industry. And if we look at that in terms of agriculture is really a contributor of that because they're part of that carbon cycle. And I think that cycle has what's really been broken. And so if we look at, any additional CO2 from oil and gas, that can easily be put to work in a regenerative ag cycle by using that carbon to produce everything, to produce life. That's plants, animal life, soil health. And a lot of that gets locked away in that carbon cycle. So I think when we talk about all these dynamics between, additional carbon in the atmosphere, there's so many different people coming up with all these solutions, but it really comes back to agriculture. And it comes back to just restoring that carbon cycle. And I always like to say, when you create more life on the farm, you create more life. And it has this compounding effect. And that is participating in repairing that carbon cycle.
I think, and Jay, just jump in whenever the hell you like, man. Yeah. But I think that is, even from a basic education standpoint, in third grade, a couple times a year, it comes up on the show whenever the conversation goes back to climate change or something else like that, and how CO2 is a great Satan on the earth. And I say, well, wait a second. When I was in third grade, we were learning about the rainforests and the Amazon and everything else, and how these were the lungs of the earth, and that it consumed CO2 and it gave us oxygen. And that's why when we learn about like the Dust Bowl or anything else like that, where major parts of the solution was planting trees, giving it all this excess carbon to eat, so we can get that the earth gets greener when there's a lot of CO2 out there for that reason. And that's basic stuff that's stuck with us for a while. Of course, we are now taught to throw all that away and to reduce carbon at all costs. So I guess that's a good place to start there. Jay, did you want to jump in on something there?
Well, I just think that point cannot be emphasized enough, Eric. I think it's, anytime I'm asked to speak anywhere, I always try to include some kind of information on greenhouse gas emissions, because there's two levels to this debate, right? Whether or not CO2 should be even considered a problem. But even if that's granted, and some people consider that the gold standard, okay, so a lot of times I'll say, I'll give you that. But then I'll go into, and I have it right in front of me because I knew we were going to be talking tonight, and I've done countless presentations on this using the EPA's own data for carbon dioxide greenhouse gas emissions from 2022. They're looking at only 10% coming from agriculture. But if you break down that 10%, crop cultivation is actually 50%, livestock is only 43%, and the rest is fuel combustion. So even if we switch to this plant-based diet that everyone tells us will be beneficial for the planet, you're talking about carbon sequestration, and only ruminant animals really can return that carbon in that biogenic carbon cycle. But even if you look at that from a big picture perspective, you're not really impacting CO2 all that much, even if you transition away from livestock in the first place. Is that your... Given the fact that you do this for a living, is that sort of the frustration also that you carry into this, that the people aren't really actually looking at the data, even if they want to label CO2 some kind of a dangerous hazard to the planet?
Yeah, my position is if we have additional CO2 in the atmosphere, we ought to put it to work, right? And that would limit that additional CO2. And agriculture in itself, in kind of monocrop agriculture, is a little different, right? And that's the majority. Like when you say switching to plant-based, I do not believe that's the solution. And I do not believe it wraps up more carbon than it emits, because many of these large operations use a ton of tillage. Yeah. And one of the tenets of regenerative ag is keeping a living root growing for as long as possible throughout the year. And that is not possible with monocrop agriculture. So I'm talking about all the large corn, soy operations, kind of anything that they grow a single crop. It's very difficult to do that. But in regen ag, it is totally different. You're constantly working with that cycle of life. Right. And animals are a piece of that. And so I think when you do that, you create more life, you create more biodiversity, and you create more carbon in your soils as well, which improves that nutrient density of the foods we eat, because it's improving that soil health over time. And the fact is, the way we practice agriculture right now, we're losing about 75 billion tons of topsoil every year. What if we said, hey, let's not do all the monocrop. Let's use that in native perennial grass systems using ruminant animals to graze. Well, think how much life that's going to bring to that, and how much more carbon that's just going to wrap up in that cycle. So I'm a big proponent of not, castigating oil and gas as the enemy. But hey, if we have excess CO2 in the atmosphere, let's use it and put it to work and improve some of these things that we've talked about, whether it's our health or biodiversity or soil health or whatever that might be.
I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about biodiversity and fertilization and all that. This is something, if you just give me a moment, my wife and I, we were watching Clarkson's Farm. Do you ever watch Clarkson's Farm?
I've heard of it.
Okay,
I've not watched it.
We were watching it last week, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to talk to a guy about this next week." It was in season 3. Jeremy Clarkson, he brings in these consultants to pitch new ideas to lessen the impact of what at this time of the shooting of this season, which was around 2002 into 2003, probably around 2003. So we're about just a little under a year into the timeline of the Ukraine-Russia war and all that stuff. And in this episode, he brings in consultants to figure out ways that he could lessen the impact of the skyrocketing fertilizer costs due to the war in Ukraine, because that at that time, the whole world was talking about how Russia was a major provider of chemical fertilizer for the entire world. And it turns out that the two people he brings in were regenerative farmers. And the first thing that they suggested was addressing what they said was a monoculture in the fields. And meaning, like you said, one crop grown per field. And what they were suggesting was doing things like mixing wheat with beans, because, for example, beans produce, I don't know, I think it's a natural fertilizer because the nitrogen that they produce there. Yep. Compared to all the cost of the fertilizers. Well, not only that, but he said, yeah, you might get a little bit less yield, but it's going to be sustainable because the soil is not going to be burnt out from all the chemical sterilizations over the years. So when you talk about fertilizer and monoculture, what have you learned?
Yeah, more biodiversity is better. It's better for soil health. It's better for my animal health. And that transfers to our health. So I think biodiversity is key. And I will say, I do believe there's, people don't realize it, but there has been a significant biodiversity collapse on the planet over the last many decades. And that's, no one's, I don't think most people don't deny that. We can see it, but it is a direct result of a lot of these monocrop agriculture that we do. Or it can not only be that, it might be even cattle farmers, like they prefer one grass for their beef because they know, what, it's got high protein and this is all I want. But long term, it's not really sustainable. It's not what's best for soil health. And the inputs you have to do to maintain a monocrop, I think, makes it cost prohibitive to keep doing it. So there's a lot to be said about improving biodiversity. Even on our ranches today, we do not spray, we do not plow, of course, and we only use animals to impact, and we use an occasional, if there are species that begin to overpopulate, that maybe are not a contextually desirable species, we'll use prescribed burns to limit that. Trying to work with all these natural cycles and not so much, just adding a chemical or trying to find something easy or using a machine to manipulate nature to how we see it. It's really kind of working with these processes of nature and not against them.
I like to follow up something on that real quick, and then Jay, you can jump in if you'd like. We have high hopes at HHS. That HHS is on a path to, among other things, agricultural renewal in this country. But you just bring up something that made me think about that. There's so many chemical mandates for food producers, or has been in the past for food producers in this, pesticide mandates, whatever the hell it is. I wonder what aspects of, if any, regenerative farming may actually be illegal on account that it's too all natural. Or what are there as far as legal hurdles? What kind of legal hurdles does regenerative farming face in the United States right now?
Yeah, I don't know of any legal hurdles per se.
Okay.
I mean, I think there's perception that you can't feed the world. This is one hurdle that we're trying to overcome with the public, that, say, hey, regen ag's great, but you can't feed the world that way. So, I mean, but I don't think there's any legal hurdles. But I think on that note of people saying you can't regen ag's great, but you can't feed the world is just false. I mean, the fact is all of our research and science has gone down this chemical path, right? All these chemical companies that then promote their chemicals, and they get ingrained with universities that didn't want to teach farmers, this is what you got to do and this is how you got to do it. None of our dollars, research dollars, have really been spent around regen ag cycles and how do we improve that? How do we perfect that? So I think kind of getting wrapped up in this big ag system is really kind of limited the growth of regen ag. But I think it's seeing its day. And you mentioned with, Bobby Kennedy and leading the HHS, I think we're starting to see that begin to turn, and that it's getting its recognition, and that maybe the research dollars around regen ag will improve over time and really help spur this movement.
Yeah, you are speaking my language. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about. And of course, this audience knows I'm a super nerd. So of course I had to grab a paper to talk about actually how regenerative agriculture can actually feed the world and actually potentially produce more. So I want to read that in a second, but I don't want to lose this really important train of thought. You're talking about improving soil health, because obviously then even the plants that are grown in that soil that is more biodiverse are going to uptake more nutrients. So the food that you put on your plate is going to be more nutrient dense. We run into this problem where we look at a fruit or a vegetable and we look at it on paper and we say, oh, well, it's got this much manganese and it's got this much calcium. But that's only on paper. If the soil is depleted of nutrients, the food is not going to contain that amount of nutrient that according to the USDA database. So with that being said, I've seen a lot of numbers thrown around, but I've never seen this in the literature. You mentioned this soil erosion. Some people say we only have 50 harvests left, right, before the soil is depleted. Now, obviously, that's if we continue on this path. But I think this is really important for the audience to understand how perilous this has become, not because we're using animals to graze the land and to upcycle nutrients, but because we're monocropping and we're using copious amounts of pesticides to the point where we don't even know how much glyphosate we're using anymore. We've stopped calculating it. So can you speak to that soil erosion and how many harvests you foresee left on Earth if we don't change our ways?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big number, 60 harvests left. And, as I mentioned, it's we are losing tons and tons of top. So for example, for you guys, just 2 weeks ago, we had a huge windstorm come across the Midwest. I don't know if you saw it on the weather, but in that windstorm in my ranch here, it was dust, just pure. Where did that come from? That was the topsoil from some of the Great Plains states that plow their fields yearly. That it was just carried away, and that ends up in rivers and in the bottom of the ocean over time. And that's where it's headed. And I'm a big one thing I like to tell people is regen ag is about cycling nutrients in the places where it does humans, plants, and all animals the most good. And monocrop ag exports nutrients yearly. Like it's literally getting blown away or washed down the river. And those nutrients cycling at the bottom of the ocean don't do us any good, right? It really doesn't. And so I think if we can really use these concepts of regen ag, again, improve that nutrient cycle. As we know, all the fruits that we grow or the vegetables we grow are far less nutrient dense than they used to be 50 years ago, 60 years ago. That continues. So you got to eat more of that to have more health. And the same thing with cattle grazing on, non-biodiverse pastures. They're not cycling those nutrients. We are what we eat, but we are what we eat eats.
That's and the thing that these same bureaucracies, these are the same bureaucracies that formulated our food pyramid, mind you, in general. I mean, I'm sure you got a lot.
What happened since 1980, Frank? I mean, we went from, a more animal-based diet to a high carb, low fat. So you got to cut animal fats. Well, what replaced those fats? It was seed oils. And that skyrocketed. But what else has gone to hell? It's our health. Yeah. I mean, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity. I mean, almost 75% of Americans are overweight. Like these things skyrocketed since the 80s. So we can't, how can we blame animal fats on something that, wasn't the culprit?
Yeah.
That's another slide that I use a lot that we, up till, Crisco, I think, was invented in 1910 or 1911. Up until then, 99.9% of fats in the diet were animal fats. And the first recorded heart attack in the medical literature wasn't until 1912. And what also took off after that point was the reduction of things like animal fats and the introduction of things like your hydrogenated oils, your seed oils, into the point where we're consuming 35% of our calories from those very unnatural fats. They don't occur in nature. In large quantities. So, you at least have to look at outcomes and say, maybe we're doing something wrong here. And not to mention, again, the pesticides, but so that's interesting. So you do see that coming down the pike. It's when people, to grasp that number, 60 harvests, that's a very small number if we don't make a dramatic change. And so that's why I said to you at the beginning, Eric, it's so critical what you and others are doing. And every time, I see a farmer like you on land like yours doing what you're doing, it's like we just have to tell everybody. That's why we, support Amos Miller, the Amish farmer in Pennsylvania, who's, coming under fire. I'm sure you've probably heard of this from the USDA and the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture for doing what we've done for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
He was actually he was part of the reason why I asked Eric about what may be some legal issues he had come up along the way.
Yeah, I think this was with raw milk. Or wasn't it? Or
it was dairy based, I think.
Yeah. So we don't sell milk, but it was really. I think he was selling raw milk, so unpasteurized milk, which I think is extremely healthy.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. Like this was consumed for years and years before. Then all of a sudden it's bad for you, and it'll kill you. It's insane. It's the same thing with vaccines. I think we've really been sold a bill of goods on vaccines as well. And again, on our properties, we know if you raise animals in the right way, you keep them healthy, the need for vaccines is almost non-existent.
I'm glad you bring this up. I had a guest on with me last month to discuss homesteading. And so I had to ask him about bird flu. How does a regenerative rancher tend to animals when they're sick? That's the easy one. But I think more importantly, more interestingly, how do you tend to animals when they're healthy? Because what we know is recommended across the board, and many farms do this. I think most do. It is a steady diet of antibiotics, vaccines, deworming medicines, all that stuff. It's constant, and this is all as a preventative measure to make sure that they don't get sick. So if you got a sick animal, what are you doing? And more importantly, what are you doing with your healthy animals?
Yeah, well, for one, we rarely have a sick animal, and the healthy animals are healthy for a reason. One is that we are continually rotating pastures, so they're never concentrated in one area for a very long length of time. The other piece here that's interesting when we talk about biodiversity in our pastures, so all these different species of plants that grow on a regenerative ranch that is really biodiverse, each one of those that animal is using for its own diet if it has any health issue, it will self-select a plant that will fix it. So these animals have learned this over many, many years of evolution, and they pick. I can show you goats will, when they have a sick tummy, they'll eat a certain species of plant to help fix that tummy ache that they have. Cows will do the same thing. If they're lacking in nutrients, they will self-select plants that are higher in that nutrient to help fix that imbalance. And I think that's part of what's really keeping them healthy, and it lessens the need for any antibiotics ever. But to answer your question, if an animal does get sick for whatever reason, they are isolated from the herd. If they have to give antibiotics, that tag number is taken, and they will never enter our food supply chain because we don't allow any antibiotics. We don't propose just let them die out in the pasture, but fix them. But it's very, very seldom that we have to do that.
Wow.
This is such, again, an undersold part of all of this. If you ever watched, I've seen this, and I didn't understand it when I was younger, but if you watch a deer, I used to have deer in my backyard when I was a kid, getting ready for school, kind of stand at the back window and just kind of watch them. And if you watch them, they will take a nibble on one bush, take a nibble on another bush, and then for no reason that you could possibly understand, they find something they like and they devour it.
Yeah.
And when I was studying at the Nutritional Therapy Association, we were taught a similar thing. A lot of doctors from the past say that the body has an innate ability to understand what nutrients it needs, and sometimes that manifests in humans through cravings. That we know, that we know what nutrients that we need, but we've been so separated from that for That's a whole other podcast.
Right.
How we got separated.
We have
from
addictions
that.
now.
Right. And
Yes.
we have drugs to fall asleep. We have drugs to wake up. We have drugs to lose weight. We have drugs to do everything. But I love that you explain that, because I've really never heard anybody else speak of that. And when I was trained that way, people think that's kind of woo-woo, but it's not. It's actually nature. That's how nature takes care of itself. I just think that's beautiful. And I think that people can relate it to themselves when they kind of get away from a lot of the industrial foods, the industrial drugs, and all of that stuff. Your innate ability to understand what your body needs, what it functions well with, and what it doesn't need is actually upregulated. And you can reclaim some of that, because I really do think that's inherent in humans as well as animals.
Yeah, I think our bodies have been hijacked by these ultra processed foods. So yeah, you're right. We don't know what we need. We can't distinguish those things because of what we've been, exposed to from ultra processed foods. And so we've kind of been hijacked in a way to not really kind of understand that.
Have you been asked to try to use Bovir on any of your animals? I know that's a new, that's the methane reducing pill, or it's like a teaspoon in their feed, and it's supposed to reduce methane emissions. I'm just curious if that's come across.
It's an anti-gas pill for cows.
Basically, yeah.
They're really pushing the cow fart thing still.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So this is a new thing. I did an episode with Daryl on this, but yeah, Bovir is what it's called, Eric. I'm sure you're at least aware of it. Is there any pressure on you to use that kind of stuff?
No, I know, and it hasn't, but I know in Europe there has been, right? So they're forcing them to kind of feed this Bovir, this kind of methane reducing additive. But what I can tell you, I think animals grazing on pasture in a regenerative way, there's methane oxidizing bacteria that live in that grassland.
That's right.
And so the impact from methane emissions from cattle is not much anyway, but when you do it in a natural system, in a regen ag system, much of that methane is being oxidized and used by these methane oxidizing bacteria. So I think, that the impact from that is almost nothing in a system like ours.
It's just incredible how we identify these problems so that we can create solutions, in quotes, so that we can capitalize on those supposed solutions when the problem really never even existed. Well, in the first place.
And going back to what I had noticed in that episode of Clarkson's Farm, they came in is like a wartime necessity that they believed. Okay, we can't, the fertilizer, the chemical fertilizer that we need from Russia is not available now, and whoever is providing it, the cost is going through the roof. And these guys came in and they provided a natural, sustainable way. They said, yeah, you're going to get a little bit less yield because you're mixing beans with wheat, but they're helping each other, and you're not destroying the soil going forward. You're actually going to keep this a lot. You'll probably be one of the more functional farms 100 years down the line if you start doing this now. So you look at that, what somebody would think would be an extenuating circumstance, an emergency measure should actually probably be the gold standard. And you think about the cost that it even today with all of the fertilizer to not have to do that. But I don't know. It's obvious to me that not a lot of people are being taught how the earth, like the body, is highly intelligent and can renew itself.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you provide the right conditions for life, that life accelerates and it creates more life. And, the earth, that's been, I mean, we didn't get this far from manipulating it, right? It's, we're not on a sustainable path for agriculture or and I truly believe humans have this ability to improve our circumstance based on kind of the decisions we make today. But a lot of that is going to revolve around agriculture, and using these really extractive methods are not a good path for us.
And that's another thing. You just used the word that we need to reclaim from the real science-based and the people doing regenerative ag sustainability. That's got a really poor connotation today. But in truth, the system we're talking about, which is generally thought of as contributing to the problem, is actually the sustainable solution. So it's really the inverse of reality. And so that's a word that we need to reclaim, because so maybe this is the perfect time for me to read you this little paragraph from this paper, because I would love to get your input on this, because this is what you do. So this is from a 2018 paper. I just like to show the audience that this stuff is being researched. It's in the literature. So let me just read you this brief thing, if that's okay. And I'd love to get your comment, Eric. So regenerative farming systems provide greater ecosystem services and profitability for farmers than an input-intensive model of corn production. So they're looking at specifically at corn production here. Pests were tenfold more abundant in insecticide-treated cornfields than on insecticide-free regenerative farms, indicating that farmers who proactively design pest-resilient food systems outperform farmers that react to pests chemically. Regenerative fields had 29% lower grain production, but a 78% higher profit over traditional corn-producing systems. Profit was positively correlated with the particulate organic matter of the soil, not the yield. These results provide the basis for dialogue on ecologically based farming systems that could be used simultaneously to produce food while conserving our natural resource base, two factors that are often pitted against each other in oversimplified food production systems.
Yeah. And it gets back on the pest standpoint on monocrops. I mean, you provide one crop, well, that's a buffet for this certain pest that loves that crop, and they accelerate. And when you kill everything, like when you spray pesticides on this crop, you try to kill everything, right?
Yeah.
The problem with that is you kill all the good bugs or anything that would eat that. So in a regen ag system, we really promote that biodiversity. So you have, predator bugs that eat other bugs. We have wildlife, birds that on our ranch in particular, we have, thousands of birds that eat these insects. So they limit that population. They're kind of the population control. And, that's the thing about, natural systems. They have a way of self-correcting. Yeah, it's not perfect. It's not exactly how you would maybe like to see it as a farmer rancher, but it has a way of balancing itself out if you give it the chance to do that.
Tuesday night, I opened the lines for people to call in with things that that they have noticed disappeared over the course of the last decade that maybe had, in a larger sense, had gone unnoticed. And there are a lot of interesting contributions to that. Some of them were cultural, some of them were technological. But one of the things that stood out to me that came from a few people was that they had noticed that there were a lot less bugs, that they're commenting on less bees. I mean, we've been hearing about the bees being in danger for a long time. Sometimes they bounce back, whatever. People were contributing. I'm not seeing bees, fireflies, butterflies, less and less. You can take a road trip for 500 miles and not have the front hood of your car pelted with bug bodies like you used to in the 1990s. Any thoughts on that? I guess this kind of ties in with the way that we just spray everything down. It must be a little bit more widespread than that, or wide-reaching, I should say.
Yeah, there's zero. I mean, to me, this is the topic, and the thing that Regen Ag repairs is this collapse in biodiversity. And I think we have over time, and there's no doubt these species have declined over time. Many of them, not just insects, but birds and all kinds of wildlife. And when you draw that out, it gets super scary. Like, I mean, we don't want to lose all these species because we don't know what impact it might have on us, because they all play a part in these natural cycles. But just how we do everything, really everything we do in this world is meant to limit life, right? So in a monocrop, plowing, spraying, everything is limiting life. From all the processes we do, we really do these things even on other conventional ranching operations. We do a lot of processes that limit life. Regen Ag is about regenerating life. So we don't want to be life limiters. We want to be life regenerators. And that's when all these things come back, and all these things in biodiversity work themselves back into creating a healthier cycles in water cycles, mineral cycles, carbon cycles. So it really is, we've got to get out of these life limiting activities and do things that are life regenerators.
What's funny with that is that what does that mimic in the human body? Anytime there's anything wrong, we throw an antibiotic at it. And what is an antibiotic?
It kills all the good bacteria, maybe it gets the bad bacteria, but it gets all the good bacteria too.
Right.
And they play a part. Yeah.
And that word you're using, the biodiversity.
Well, hey, they tell you to eat yogurt when
I
you take it.
know they
Jeez.
do. I mean, I guess mitigating the damage. But I always liken that to the nuclear bomb approach. If you've got an ant problem in your house, you don't want to use a nuclear bomb because it'll work, but you're going to have a few other problems at the end of the cleanup. So the loss of biodiversity not only applies, Eric, as he's using it to the environment, to the soil. but it also applies to the internal microbiome. And what we're learning now is that the microbiome is the key to health.
Yeah, and a key to that too is, I don't know, we guys talked about, pesticide use and herbicide use. One of the biggest herbicides used is glyphosate. I don't know if you guys heard of that.
Oh, yes.
Roundup or glyphosate. I think something like 280 million pounds are sprayed yearly. And it really, it is a strong antibiotic, geared to kill weeds. But that stuff is sprayed on our crops, and we are eating that.
Yep.
I can tell you for a fact on all wheat crops, because I not too far from, maybe a couple hours from here, there's lots of wheat fields. And just before that, not only do they use it for weed control, but just before wheat is harvested, they do something they call desiccate it, right?
Yes.
So that kills it so they can harvest it. What do they use? Glyphosate. So just before they harvest it, they kill it with glyphosate. And that's that wheat. And I think this is a big thing. You guys hear about all these allergies with wheat, and gluten and things of that nature. I think this kind of glyphosate, the amount we use is insane. And we're just spraying that and eating it. I mean, this is crazy. And it does interrupt that gut microbiome that you mentioned, Jay. And I think that's part of it as well.
Yeah, I think it was last February is when I had a guest on who had picked up in the middle of all the lockdowns in 2020, picked up her family and went to go live out in Malta. And we were talking about the Mediterranean diet that night. We were talking about those blue zones where all around the world there's more people than anywhere else that are living beyond 100 years old. And then, of course, there was just a lot of frequently published articles about people who will claim that they were very nervous going on their European vacation to Italy or something like that because they have celiac. And going into Europe, of course, or they're gluten sensitive or whatever the hell it is, going into Europe, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to go to Italy and not have some pasta? Right. So, but they would report back that they were so surprised that not only were they not completely impaired by having something that had wheat gluten in it, but they actually felt good. Yeah. Like it almost had a medicinal, beneficial, aspect to it. And
what's the differentiator?
Exactly. It called into question, how is this making it from farm to table over here compared to what we live with in the United States? And I think this is really a big part of a lot of people's hopes that we start getting more out of HHS for as long as it's going to be an entity. I mean, we just hope that we can do this for ourselves, for our future.
Yeah, I think if we can limit glyphosate usage, that would be a huge win in that regard. And I think that there's a direct connection between that link and the increased celiac disease. So that could go a long way. I mean, and I've heard that so many times about how you go to Europe and they don't have these same issues with gluten allergies. I think Joe Rogan talked about it on his podcast recently. And so people are beginning to realize that, hey, maybe it is our food system that's making us sick.
We were talking about bees earlier and glyphosate. So here's a great little stat from a paper, 2021 Journal of Applied Ecology. Bees exhibited a 94% mortality when exposed to Roundup Ready to Use and a 30% mortality when exposed to Roundup Proactive over only a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's staggering, right? When you talk about loss of biodiversity.
Genocide.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And so, Eric, could I ask you, because you mentioned that field down the road, I talk about this with people a lot where, they ask me what you can do to mitigate glyphosate. And of course, buying organic is a great start. But here's the thing, we don't live in a vacuum. So I don't know if you test it all, but are you concerned with, or have you explored that concept of genetic drift, where even though this is not being used in your fields, your animals aren't grazing on this grass, the fact that we just don't live in a bubble and we can't completely seal off our land. So do you ever consider that concept of genetic drift when it comes to these other farms using things like glyphosate, even just to desiccate the crops?
You're asking him if he's worried about if neighboring farms, what they're using in neighboring farms is drifting into his place?
Correct.
Okay, go ahead, Eric. That's a good question.
Yeah, no, it could happen. I'm lucky I'm far enough away.
Yeah.
Maybe it's, hopefully it's not happening, but it definitely is a possibility. And it's unfair, right? I mean, I don't want that on my fields.
Yeah.
So, but there is enough buffer between our ranches and these big fields that spray, millions of pounds of it that hopefully it's not impacting it, but it is a possibility.
Mhm.
And I don't think that's right. We shouldn't have to, it's, we're trying to promote biodiversity, not kill it. So
Yeah.
good point.
Well, listen, we're almost out of time, Eric, and this is such a big topic. I would love to have you back again sometime down the road just to check in to see what's going on here. But I would love to put a little bit of attention on your business, your ranch, your website. I have EatRep, EATREP, eatrep.com is in the description of the episode. Here is the website. There you are. Everybody's having a good time, and the cows look fantastic, of course. So this is do you ship your steak all over the country, or is it just regional?
No, we ship nationwide.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that's exactly right. Yeah.
I'm gonna have
And
to
just,
try some.
We do test batches of our meat. So we test for antibiotics, just to make sure we're not getting anything. And we also test the omega-6 to omega-3 ratios. So we talked about soil health, and we talked about testing, and we talked about how seed oils. Well, we're trying to limit omega-6s in our diet, and we're trying to improve omega-3s. And we know in grass-fed beef, they have a much better favorable profile from omega-6 to omega-3. And so when we say we're grass-fed, we don't just say it. We want to show people through data. So we actually test that meat to ensure people that they're getting 100% grass-fed and grass-finished beef.
Oh, this looks beautiful, man.
And you grind organ meats into some of these, which is a great way for people to get in those nutrients
in your diet. Yeah, you barely taste it at all. I mean, there's subtle hints of it, but you can get, increased, from, liver is one of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet. And so we mix that with our grind, an 80-20 grind, with some other organs, and you can get that boost, that extra nutrient boost.
Well, it's wonderful. Eric, I hope people go and check out your website, reach out to you, and take a look what's going on. It'd be great just to have you back and comment. Hey, we're in a prime position where your worldview, our worldview, may become a little bit more mainstream, and hopefully we can get together and comment on things and celebrate a little bit more over the next couple of years. Is there anything else you'd like to leave behind for people other than the website and anything else? What comes next for Eric Perner?
Yeah, just I want to encourage people, know your food where it comes from. We share our stories openly. We're honest about all our processes. And I think we've gotten lost because so many big corporate entities control our food that we don't know where it came from. Get more connected with your food. If it's not from us, try to get from a local guy. Really promote Regen Ag, because it really is a solution to all these problems we talked about, guys.
That straight
Well
on.
said.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well done. Thank you so much for the time tonight, Eric. It's been great to meet you, and we will definitely do this again soon.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate y'all.
All right. There goes Eric Perner, everybody. We learned a little bit about regenerative farming tonight. I feel like this was a Mr. Rogers episode.
Well, the whole idea is to entertain and also to inform. And I think we've done our job. Now, second half, let's just entertain.
Yeah, I know. I love this. That's the whole thing here with, let me get you up on the screen again.
Don't get me started talking about glyphosate. I got a 6-page summary. If you're not careful, we're going to talk about glyphosate the whole second half.
Don't
tempt me.
Don't tempt me with a good time. I love talking about glyphosate. It's like dirty talk.
My gosh. As soon as he brought it up, you were like,
I know.
I heard your breathing increase. Somebody please call an ambulance. All right. Well, anyway, this is going to be great. We have a whole other half of the show left, and now I want to open up the lines to that. We're just going to take a really quick intermission. As I head into intermission, I would like to take a moment once again to thank Badlands Media for syndicating tonight's episode of Quite Frankly. I have quite a few good friends over there, and I hope that our Thursday nights together provide some good value to what is already a robust broadcast schedule at Badlands. So I'm really happy with tonight, and I hope you are having a good time too. And I'm also happy to give a plug to My Pillow. Mike Lindell's My Pillow as one of tonight's sponsors. So I've been actually using My Pillow for a few years now, actually thanks to Adel and Badlands. That's where I got it. I told you all before, the first time I used the My Pillow was for the blood draw at home. I needed to have my knees elevated.
Of course.
And then when I moved upstairs and I used to have 2 pillows stacked. How many pillows do you use?
Just one My Pillow.
Just one? Oh, you have a My Pillow too.
I do. Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Do you have the slippers?
I don't.
This guy.
I'm not a slipper guy.
He even knows about. Well, I just started using the My Pillow about 2 years ago because for my head, not my knees.
Got it.
Because I moved away from having 2 pillows stacked because the new mattress that Lauren and I got was a little bit more soft.
Oh.
And what I felt was my body sank into like the memory foam, and my head was like at a 90-degree angle. I said, I gotta lose a pillow here, and that's when I went to the My Pillow. I said, wow, this is good.
I was just disappointed that Mike didn't deliver the pillow to me directly.
Who knows? Who knows?
Expecting him to be like, Jay,
yeah,
I'm here.
Anyway, we're going into intermission on that note, and I use it to sleep. I use it to beat Aurora, and all of that stuff. So use your promo code Badlands, and we'll see you on the other side of the intermission. We're taking your calls and more right at the other side of intermission.
I hear every day about the products you all wish My Pillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard My Pillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use My Pillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all My Pillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard My Pillows absolutely free.
What?
The Lord Jehovah has given unto you these 10 commandments.
Quite frankly, he's amazing.
All right. Okay, everybody. Well, it's 8:05. That was a great time with Eric Perner. We're back for the second half, and now I want to open up the lines, and we'll see what's in the super chats. Jay Britt says, love the topic tonight. Eric is a great guest. Thanks, Frank. That's from Quite Frankly Superchat.com. I also should say thank you to Shotzi on Tuesday night. This one slipped in there, and I didn't see it. Wishing you the happiest of birthdays, Frank. Hugs to the beautiful ladies. Have a great time at the game tomorrow. It was a great time. Too bad the Yankees torpedo bats did not come to life that night. Ooh. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so there's one thing that we have right there. The Yankees are scoring tonight, though, so good for them. They waited until the night after we left. Sal the Butcher. I also have to say, speaking of meat, congratulations to Sal Mira, Sal the Butcher. He just became a dad on Saturday.
Hey!
Beautiful baby boy.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
You're going to raise that kid carnivore, right?
Oh, of course he is. No doubt about it. There you have that. Okay, let's see here. What else do I have? Over on the Quite Frankly, let's see, on the website, let's see, we have Madame Mayhem. Says, regarding sustainable soil care, we have a 43-gallon tumble compost bin which our suitable kitchen and yard waste go into.
Nice.
We happen to juice raw vegetables and fruits, so really get a boost with composting. Much more sensible than the money I spent buying organic compost for the garden.
Definitely.
Well, that's where it was crazy there too, because I don't know. What do I know? If I go into this thing green, I say to myself, well, I probably, I don't know what I would buy, but I would have to imagine that the standard fertilizer, chemical fertilizer you buy, nitrogen spray or something like that, there's probably a better way to do it.
Yeah.
And cost effective and all that other stuff. I've heard for years about Miracle Grows and all that. But you know what? I'm not that active in the in it. So whereas I would have my suspicions, I would just need to find counsel there. I just wouldn't buy anything.
Yeah, I mean, you would seek out someone like Eric. You know, you would talk to people like that. Talk to a few people who do this way of farming, because you're just essentially doing that on a much smaller scale.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see here. Now, here's what we'll do as we get deeper into things. On the topic of regenerative farming, if you have any regenerative farming red pills or anything else like that you want to share, you can call the hotline. The hotline for you should know is 914-369-1236. That's if you are on the farming end of things and you want to get in on that specific hotline. But for anything else, my friends, I'm sorry. Skype just told me, goodbye, Skype. Hello, Teams. No. What? Wait. What? No, remind me later. I have this phone until wet May, you sons of bitches. But as far as everything else goes, if you want to just call the open line, and I guess...
You know what's really cool about what...
914-200-0269. Go ahead.
That last question that I asked him about the glyphosate, spraying over to his field, that's something called genetic drift. But what was really cool also, we didn't get a chance for me to mention this to him, but there was a few studies done out of Canada that showed that the meat and milk of animals, at least in this particular study, showed no glyphosate residue, even though crops did. So in other words, something about the metabolism of ruminants, specifically glyphosate, they say in these 22 samples, glyphosate was not detected in these products because the animals will metabolize and eliminate the pesticide before it can transfer to milk or meat. So that's just another notch in the column of, if you don't know what to do, a ruminant animal meat is going to be probably among the safest things. Now, we're not talking about any kind of, mRNA stuff, right. But in generally speaking, when you're talking about environmental pesticides and things like that, ruminant animals are still going to be your best choice.
Common sense would tell me it's just because they have livers and kidneys and they have organs that are cleaning out the blood better,
and their stomach is very different the way they digest food. That's kind of a cool thing to know.
All right, let's take a call. Let's take a call from Frank in Westchester. What's going on, Frank?
Hey, Frank, how's it going?
Oh, it's going. Hold on, the music. We're having a fun party over here. Go ahead, Frank.
Nice. So, totally off the topic of the whole farming thing, but what really bugged me this morning that I heard, Pam Bondi calling that Luigi guy a terrorist, and I'm kind of like, if I felt like if I witnessed him murder that guy Brian, I would have been like, well, it must be something between you and him, not my business.
If I witnessed the murder, I would say, I want to stay away from this as much as I would definitely want some distance.
Personal, it didn't seem like an act of terrorism, unlike the whole Tesla stuff, where it's just this dealerships and people's property.
But did the Luigi guy? Wait, so we have confirmation that the Luigi guy knew the healthcare CEO personally, or was he sending a message?
It seemed like a personal kind of vendetta. Because if it meant if he wanted to
it's still political. It's terrorism.
Yeah, I would think if he was going to make it political, he would have gone after the whole board of United Health.
Well, when you go for the head honcho.
Guy.
He didn't have time. He had to go to McDonald's. He didn't have time.
He had to go for he went for the head honcho. I think he shot for the. He shot pretty high right there. So I don't know.
It just seemed kind of it's like a personal thing, like a DV.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, there you go. Well, Frank's trying to filter that through.
I do think we use the word terrorism a little loosely because everyone calls everybody a terrorist, but I still don't know what to think about this, Frank. This thing kind of went away. I still don't get any of that whole thing. I was in McDonald's 2 days later wearing the same clothes and all that stuff that we talked about.
And here's the other thing that I was going to bring up tomorrow, but maybe now I don't have to do it. This is from Zero Hedge today. Luigi Mangione. Copycat killer.
Whoa.
goes into a pharmacy and kills a worker in California. They call it a Luigi copycat killer. It says a copycat of alleged insurance executive assassin Luigi Mangione apparently harbored so much hatred toward large pharmacies that he targeted a Walgreens in California and fatally shot a vulnerable employee.
That's not the same thing.
I know it's not the same thing, but what they're trying to, and I said, this guy, and who knows what the hell where this all goes there. But I said, he does have the ability of becoming the next kind of Charles Manson kind of figure from behind bars. He has this crazy appeal to people. I keep bringing up the bank robbers during the Great Depression, how they were a lot of Americans kind of rooted them on despite all the people they were killing along the way, Bonnie and Clyde, John Dillinger, shit like that. But this is something else. There is I don't know. It's like a layer of Tumblr crazy that is all over this one.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, but like, yeah, I mean, I take, I don't know, using the word copycat. I mean, killing a pharmacist in working in a Walgreens.
Right.
That's an insane word to use. Copycat. That's you may be inspired by it, but then
that's what I'm saying. It's
you're
deranged.
aiming too low. Yeah.
That's a deranged, crazy shit. Now, are they just making the connection there?
Yeah,
Is he citing Luigi Mangione in a well-timed manifesto? There's always manifestos.
Always
these
manifestos.
days.
I think we should write a manifesto.
Perhaps.
It just seems like everyone's doing it.
Right. I mean, why did we do it? That's I don't know, man. And then here's the other thing. But when it comes to the definition of terrorism, you're talking about an act of violence to meet a political end. And that's just really what it is. You can say that it's not political from a government standpoint, but it is when you talk about healthcare. It's an institution, and you're trying to send a message so that policy changes.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm very, it's like,
and it's bad policy too.
Yeah, it is.
It's bad policy. We've done insurance deep dives on this show how many times in just the last 2 years?
Sure.
So it's
it's very complex. I mean, even just the facts of the case still don't make any sense to me. And I know I think he's pleaded not guilty. Not that means anything necessarily. I mean, he might just be under advice of counsel, but I just thought the whole thing was weird, man. I mean, again, showing up in a McDonald's a few days later, someone recognizes him because he's wearing the same clothes and he happens to be carrying all the same stuff that would incriminate. I don't know. It's weird. And again, maybe I've just studied the Kennedy assassination too long and find all these bizarre things in a case, but I don't know, man. It just seems like, and he was a pretty smart guy.
Well, you know what? In 1963, we had the luxury of focusing on one thing for a little while.
Yeah.
I mean, he made this was headlines for a week and a half, and of course, he continues to make headlines when he makes an appearance, or the fact that he has a fandom online and all that stuff. But it's gonna be hard. It's hard. It's hard to focus on one thing and debunk it. Let's take a call. 319, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I wanted to talk about the Trump tariffs.
Yeah. What do you think about the Trump tariffs?
Yeah, I think everyone's making just an absurdly big deal over this. Look, Trump, as we know, is like the most successful business person ever. So getting our economy back on track should not be a problem.
I can't hear him. I can't hear him in the Skype. The Skype thing. The funny thing is that was retarding on, and the Skype came in and actually blocked them out. I was waiting to hear what the conclusion was this time.
I just heard he was the most successul businessman of all time.
Yeah, he was probably being tongue in cheek.
Yeah,
probably being tongue in cheek. But that's what I'm talking about. Liberation Day. Now, if Joe Biden had done anything with adjusting, they kept a lot of Trump's China tariffs up there, and then there's the other thing there too, where I think they actually increase it a little bit. Hold on, let me ask this guy for a second. Hey, caller from Iowa this time. Let me ask you a question before you make your point. Have you been recently boosted? Because I always feel like your calls might correlate with a recent injection.
No, I would never take the booster.
No?
I heard my neighbor took it, and the next day his head rolled off his body.
He did.
I don't want that to happen.
I wouldn't want that to happen to you either. But it kind of.
Hope they report that to theirs.
I know.
But
so you don't like the idea of tariffs. You like the way things were.
No,
leaving.
No,
listen, I know that. Wait.
Tariffs are good.
Oh, okay. Leaving your semi-sexual obsession with Trump out of it for a second. Talk to me about the tariffs. You would rather it stay the way it was 3 days ago? You think it's better that way?
I'm not an economist, but I know Trump is like a business savant. If you look at how well he ran his airline company, his university, his pro football team.
I'm telling you, he's got God. What the fuck? the Skype is coming to my aid tonight. This guy's got like, can you? I'm trying to give you a chance, sir, because your calls are I get embarrassed for you, and I'm trying to give you a shot.
And I'm giving you an explanation why I would trust Trump. He's been so successful.
Okay. The brain AIDS continues with this guy. Feel bad.
I can't remember if we talked about this on or offline, but I just wish people could separate that part and understand that. What was I saying to you? It was a Thomas Sowell quote that there's no solutions. There are only degrees, or there are only compromises, where nothing is inherently all good or all bad. And I just wish we could assess the situation for what it is and give it a little bit of time to play out. I mean, I just don't know. I don't understand, even from the field that I'm in, I don't understand why that's so hard to do. We are doing the same thing with RFK. The people that want him to immediately destroy all vaccine research, and I just want an honest accounting, which we haven't gotten yet. But those people are angry. But the people who are, who want more than just red dye number 3 removed, they're angry because it's not enough food stuff. We have to stop this childlike mentality that everything can happen like this just because you want it to. He's not I Dream of Jeannie. Can we just give this a chance to play out and have an honest intellectual conversation about the pros and cons about something? It doesn't seem like that's possible anymore.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to play something. Just on the tariffs alone. First of all, here's a guy. This is from TikTok. He even says I'm not pro Trump, but he's a business owner apparently, and he wants to talk about this thing in particular. Let's just watch this for a second. I thought this was interesting, and then we'll move on to something else. We'll spin it all together, and we have more than enough time for calls. It's only 20 after. Take a listen to this.
So do you want to know the part that they're not telling you about tariffs? Here's the reality that nobody's talking about. Nobody. This lighter costs $25 in America to buy an American-made product, okay? China makes one, sells it for $20 here in America. Out of that $20, $5 goes to whoever in America sells it. $15 of it goes back to China. You buy the $25 one in America, all $25 stays in America. So now we want to say, let's balance this out, and we're going to put a 50% tariff on Chinese goods. Now this lighter costs $30 to sell in the United States. Now you have the US made one at $25. It is cheaper. It's more expensive in the big picture, I get it. But it's now cheaper, so people are going to buy the American made one. 100% of the $25 that you spend stays in America. Stays here. The demand increases for that business has to hire employees. Right. When many businesses hire employees, that creates a supply shortage of employees, which make wages go up. Mm-hmm. Is this more expensive for the consumer in the short term? Yes, but you're getting a better product. You're getting a better product for your money, and the money is staying local. Okay, you're not funding these other countries and their businesses. That is the purpose behind all of this. Will we have a recession? Yes. Will prices go up in the short term? Yes. But the lagging effect is all of that money now stays here with us. It's not leaving the country, which gives us more money in the United States to go around for everybody. Of course, every nation in the world is going to say, we're being bad neighbors and bad business partners. Well, of course, we've made them rich.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And now we as a people are suffering. We want our money back. Why is that so hard? It's not ideal, but it works and it makes sense. And I'm not a pro-Trumper at all, but I believe in it. I'm a business owner. I know how it works.
See, I would respect the guy with the with the proxy phone number a lot more if there was that. I don't care if people call in and don't like Donald Trump. That's not the barrier to entry to have a conversation with me on the show. That's why it's so embarrassing when somebody calls up thinking that that's how you get me. Like, but this is the thing here. Now, one more. Let me attach this now. Grace, our good friend Grace, really graceful. I got in touch with her. I said, hey, listen, not only do we need to have you on the show again soon, but I would love to queue up a part of your recent release about, it's called 5 Trump Tariff Truths Exposed. And it's very well sourced, as it always is. And it's on how tariffs can make or break a nation. You know, and it's true. It can go one way or another. It can backfire, but here's the whole thing that you start realizing over time is that these are national security moves. Yes. These are essentially return fire in a naval war, and you're either going to defend yourself. What's the whole situation?
Frank,
Go ahead.
I keep hearing the analogy that and I've been listening to both sides of this. Why? Because I'm intellectually honest with myself in the things that I don't understand well, but I also understand that if I was able to learn complex biochemistry, that I can probably crack this code if I just listen to people, right? Instead of, it's like with that caller, hey, maybe talk less and listen more, right? This is what I say to a lot of people, because before I got on here opening my big mouth, I did a lot of listening, to a lot of people. And so I just want to see the other side of the equation. And I just think it's really important. We're addicted to this short-term gain. And in the people that are trashing the tariff thing, all they keep talking about is the immediate problem with prices going up. And everybody who is saying this could be a good idea is saying, yeah, there'll probably be a little bit of that, but it's like being on drugs, like bad drugs. If you want to get off drugs, there's going to be a withdrawal period, but in the end, it's going to be better for you. Why can't we start thinking like adults? And sometimes I think that Trump is the only adult in the room anymore. We're in this situation because of decades and decades of both parties playing the same financial games. Trump is saying we can't do that anymore. And I have respect for that because it's not a popular decision. It's not even a popular decision within some supposed Republican circles. But I reject the premise that we can't have an intellectual conversation on this, like you said. And it's not about agreeing or not agreeing with Trump. It's about long after Trump is gone, what is this country going to look like? And we are addicted to that cheap, the cheap plastic Chinese goods that are cheap. That's not the be all end all on what this country was built on.
I know. And I know. And if you're going to use a drug analogy, I think a lot of people who are fighting against this, they don't want to feel what should have been a very big economic correction that came a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to go through several large corrections. Inflation has to correct itself. All of the trade has to correct itself. Now, the real question is, are we going to have enough time to feel the impact? I think a couple of years is enough time to feel the impact in big ways, but to allow it to continue without, where does the torch get passed? I mean, and I'm not talking about who's going to be the next president to keep thinking to one man standing in the gap, the little Dutch boy keeping his thumb in the dam for another 4 years.
Right.
No, it can't be like that. So this is why, regardless of what's happening right now, as you all know, we never get away from it on this show. The real issues that we have facing us are cultural ones, very big cultural issues. And unfortunately, for a big top layer of people, they're not even talking about, there's no real sentient discussion about any of this stuff because they just have to be on a certain side of the line based on who is in charge and who's applying the policy. Yeah. It happens both ways. If it would be very hard for some people to give Joe Biden credit where credit due if somebody that was working him like a marionette did something that was objectively positive. Right. It'd be very hard for other people to say, no, bullshit, or they would credit somebody else. It's the same thing that everybody does it. But it's so far beyond that. Now listen to this. Here's Grace. This is about 6 minutes, 20 seconds in. You should really watch this. I think it's going to be in the after hours tonight on quitefrankly.tv, but go out and check it out. Tell Grace how much you love her, and she always does great work. Take a listen to this last, the conclusion here.
And we arrive at number 1. The administration claims they're aiming to undo the deindustrialization policies that have hollowed out the nation's core and created a national security threat in the United States for over the past half century. It's too soon to say if it's a 5D, y'all, chessboard flip, or if it's just a chaos accelerant. But he's definitely shaking it up, and the media is eating it up. The whole map or chart from the White House depicts a 10% baseline followed by these reciprocal tariffs. 44% on Myanmar, 49% on Cambodia. And the EU is preparing for counterstrikes mid-April. Australia's Prime Minister expressed his disapproval, stating, "This is not a friend's move. China's government has declared we will continue to fight until the bitter end." Whatever. China is the world sweatshop. They're on no moral high ground. Yeah. But we're faced with a significant issue as a country, as the U.S. debt sits at $36 trillion, owed to the Federal Reserve small hats. So 5 tariff truths, the result of which will be revealed as 2025 plows forward. Historically, tariffs have been a mixed bag of victories, and we could say that presently a 2025 target list, as well as a global power play. Some might even say a worldwide trade war looms ahead. And all I can do is hope that America and everyday Americans will somehow prosper. That American businesses will be prioritized and will actually prosper. That we can eventually enter a real golden age and not just pretend and talk about it while so many suffer. But just to be frank, I've made 2 other videos analyzing the real estate market and economy, and I think we're in for a little bit of pain, the bottom. But don't worry, then it's only up from there. Are you willing to endure a little pain for the prosperity of your children? What do you think, internet friends?
Grace always does a great job squaring it all up, and I gotta say, a little pain, yeah. That's the whole thing here. People are crying. People who are crying are the ones who are anointed beneficiaries of the estate sale.
Of course.
The United States is in an estate sale for the last however many generations. You brought the drug analogy up. Nobody wants to feel the pain of a correction. They want to stay on the methadone drip. And that is not, and it's not going to happen. Eventually, if you ever want to be a free individual, it's got to stop. That's why, of course, they're crying foul, people around the world. You look at the rates that we get from these countries, and they publish the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
The rates that we have been hit with by these countries, coupled with the eat the rich men, and this is the bigger thing. It's what tariffs have been placed on us by other countries that we are not doing anything. Mm-hmm. And also, you couple that with the eat the rich mentality of our government here at home. It's insane. I mean, the principle of the matter is that under these conditions, tariffs are more like a return fire in a war. I mean, it's not an attack on friends. What kind of friends would fuck you over like this?
Exactly, right.
You know? It's like, they're not all friends anymore.
It's Stockholm syndrome. Yeah. Whoa. I mean, what's the problem here? You don't like
the
beating we're giving you?
No, that's gaslighting. Australia saying that they're not being that we're not being friends. That's gaslighting.
That's true. Yeah.
You know Stockholm syndrome are the people who are defending all this shit.
Yeah.
The caller from Iowa.
But yeah, I mean, be more intellectually honest. And I mean, so assuming that guy maybe is like a Barack Obama supporter. Okay, fine. Differentiate the George W. Bush 8 years with the Barack Obama 8 years. I dare you. They're almost identical. In terms of foreign policy, in terms of economic policy. So I just don't understand the attack on somebody just because they want to change things. And again, maybe you're just happy with this slow burn into nothingness. But I just think you have to give somebody credit who's doing something that's somewhat unpopular, even in his own circles. Whether it's going to work or not is not up to me, not up to you. But I give him credit for at least making this attempt because something has to change.
Let's take another call. One more call before we go to a quick break. Gregory, go ahead.
Hey, Frank.
Yo.
GDSOB.
Whoa, what's going on, man? I keep forgetting. Keep forgetting how you keep coming. You know what? I think that there's a way to actually store you on this. I got in touch with Zoom. I can't do it while I'm on the phone with people. I'm going to experiment with this afterwards, so I know it's you next time. Go ahead. It's good to hear from you. Thank you for calling.
Right on. I just want to say I'm really enjoying the segments with Jay a lot, and I like his insight. I like his thought process. I really enjoyed the guest tonight, and I hit up his website and gonna get some good beef cuts.
Yeah. Dude. I wanted to get that. I have to get some for this summer. I have to. We'll see. Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm glad that you like it, man. I'm glad you like it. I'm glad that that Jay came by tonight. I had to insist that he came by because this was. I knew that he'd really enjoy that particular topic and this particular guest.
Yeah, absolutely. It's right in his wheelhouse.
So
hey, and last but not least, man, I missed April 1st. Allora, tante guriate, frankincense, tante guriate.
Thank you. I hope you can. I hope you're singing to me for decades more, my friend.
Hell yeah, brother.
All right.
Oh yeah. By the way, I hate this show.
Me too. You know what? Me too. Thanks a lot. All right, that's GDSOB in the chat room. Let's take a really quick break, and when we come back, more of your calls for the last leg, including more on Liberation Day. I see more callers coming in. 914-200-0269. That's the open line. Anything goes there, and yeah, just be interesting. That's all you got to do. All right, well, don't go anywhere.
You've probably seen the new collab between Rise and Badlands Media, but I'll tell you what you haven't seen yet: the end of Clown World as we know it. But have no fear. Introducing the latest addition to the Badlands INTL lineup, the sequel to the best-selling Psy-War series. We've been conditioned by these clowns to accept their circus. But it's time to unwind that and strike them out the history books. The future belongs to the real, and we've got it in droves. Go to badlandsmedia.tv/rise for the full line of premium and direct-to-garment streetwear. Made to order right here in the good old US of A, the heart of the resistance. The fall of Clown World is upon us, patriots. Let's make it official.
I am the new headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, I think is what it's called. There is this one boy we have, Harry Potter is his name. He is really something, one of the best wizard children, I think, in the whole country. He walks up to me and he says, "Donald, I'm going to turn you into a lizard." And I said, "No, you're not." And he said, "Watch this." Next thing I know, I have a tail and I'm a salamander. He didn't change me back for 4 weeks. I really didn't like that. It was humiliating. But you know, Harry is the best. He's really the best. And Ron.
It gives me great pleasure to have rolled that Rise Attire commercial too. I was so happy. So Rise Attire is working. Of course, they make the merchandise for Quite Frankly. So go and check out the wonderful category of stuff that they've done for Badlands too. So that's a good. I felt very nice about having them in here tonight. Another reason to plug our friends.
Yeah.
All right, let me take a call. What's going on, King? Hey, what's up?
Hey, I'm glad you had a good time there at the stadium with your family. That's a really nice thing there.
They were all very all very well behaved. Yes.
Well, that's good to hear. You also mentioned that you liked Fenway, and I myself would like to say I am personally, as a lifelong Yankee fan, I myself am personally a big fan of the Boston Red Sox pre-1959, but I digress.
Wait, pre-1959?
Yeah.
Why? What was that?
Yeah, you guys will figure it out. We'll move on.
All right.
Even I don't know that one.
What happened? Pre 1959.
You guys will figure it out. I'm not going to get you in trouble on the air here.
Okay, you got it.
But anyways, if I may address Jay.
Of course.
On something. Is that all right?
Of course.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, Jay, this is not to discount or crap on anything you say or promote, because I think you do and say a lot of good things there. But myself personally, I have lived by two different philosophies. Number one, nutrition is for the weak. And number two, real men relish pain. Your thoughts?
Well, wait a second. Okay, well, Jay, go ahead. You go.
Well, I mean, real men relish pain. So you're talking like something like working out, right? Like no pain, no gain, that kind of thing? Like the Rock?
No, just in general.
Oh, okay.
Physically, mentally, everything. You relish it.
I can get behind that. That's like an extreme form of stoicism. I can get behind that.
And how about nutrition is for the weak?
Well, I don't know about that. I would say, I don't know. I mean, aren't you? Last time you called in, weren't you talking about eating a whole bunch of meat? And you were like starting to dial in your nutrition.
He called in about pork chops last time.
Isn't that considered nutrition?
I don't know. Is it?
I think so.
Wait a second. First of all, Santino, if you ate only what Jay thought you should be eating, you'd be eating some of the most manliest stuff. It'd just be steak after steak after steak, brisket and eggs and steak.
Yeah.
It'd be steak.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Okay. Well, I don't know, because when I used to be like a construction foreman, one of my workers told me he had to take a water break, and I said, "Shut up and get back to work. Nutrition is for the weak. You ain't getting no water break. Get back to work, you fuck."
So water is for the weak.
Yeah, water is for the weak.
Get dressed. You're going.
That's it.
Exactly.
All right, Santino. Thanks for the call.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Take care.
Have a good one.
1959.
I don't know.
You know what? It probably is.
What?
It probably is. I know exactly what it is. It has to be. Hold on.
Is it like integration?
I'm gonna see. I'm gonna ask Rock right now. When did the Boston Red Sox
going to bad places
integrate racially? If this is what it is.
Knowing the caller.
Hold on.
He's trying to get you kicked off of YouTube.
Let me see here.
I don't remember the Red Sox pre-1959.
The Boston Red Sox racially integrated on July 21st, 1959.
So we were thinking the same thing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I said, what could he be talking about?
It's only a few things.
Oh my gosh. All right. Anyway.
Always entertaining, King. I love listening to King's calls when I'm not on the show. So it's even more of a pleasure when I'm here and I get to experience it in real time.
You get to walk the tightrope with me.
Yeah, it's great.
Is it fun walking the tightrope between the Twin Towers?
It is. It's great.
You just never know when you're going to fall to your death. All right, let's see here. More calls, 914-200-0269. Rick, go ahead, Rick. It's been a long time. What's on your mind?
How you doing, Frank? This is a great show. I love it.
Thank you. And how's Tanya? Tanya's
doing good.
Great.
And I'm not really sure about that 1959. I was thinking Babe Ruth, but I'm pretty sure he was a 4-59. So I'll be scratching my head as well, trying to figure out what that reference was.
We figured it out. I think we know what it is. But just go back about maybe 60 seconds before your call got on the air, and you'll hear the answer.
Okay, yeah, I'll go back.
Okay.
Yeah, I was waiting to get through. Anyway, on the tariffs, here's the thing, and there's a lot of noise being made by all the supposed experts on this, but the thing is that, let's face it, we have a fiat currency, which basically means if the price of our goods go up, eventually our salaries are going to go up, so it's going to balance out. It's only scary for the people who are looking at a fixed income. And I'm about 3 years away from that. So, it's scary for me, but I look at this as a good thing. But if you look at the charts that Trump put up the other day with the tariffs based on certain countries. You see some are as low as 10%. I think the United Kingdom was one of them. Well, that sort of gives them an opportunity to compete in the global market. So they can now compete against China. You know, our current economists, supposed experts, are looking at the world through a magnifying, through a microscope rather than looking at the global picture. And I think that this is a great thing globally, and will create, a greater global, economy. And I wouldn't be surprised if 2 years down the road, you have a whole bunch of countries insisting that Trump get a third term.
Well, it's one of those things here where I was talking about this earlier on, and I said that right now the United States has been converted from a car, a nice vehicle, a Ferrari, into a car battery. I mean, we've been turned into a battery for the world. That the world is plugged into us. I'd rather see. That's just the. I can understand why there's some people who are really upset that the. Go ahead.
Yeah, we've always been the world's global market. Everybody looks to sell to us because we buy. And that's the thing, is Trump is tapping into that. He's using that power. That's our nuclear power. It's like, yeah, this is the greatest global market in the world. And, you want to do business with us, you have to play fair. And I so understand this. And obviously the unions for the car manufacturers, they're right on board with it because they realize the benefit of it. But, you really have to look at this from a wider perspective. I don't know if you watch the Newsmax at all, but Carl Higbee had a great bit tonight on Newsmax explaining some of the aspects that he has direct contact with the people who are thinking this through, the experts in the Trump administration that are thinking this through. And it's like the information is out there, but people aren't looking at it because they're relying on their so-called experts. But these experts are looking at the world through a microscope when they should be looking through, I don't know.
Yeah,
I know. I get what you're saying. And yeah. Some of those like the Jim Cramers of the world. Thank you for the call, Rick. It's good to hear from you.
What does Jim Cramer think? Because whatever he thinks is going to be the opposite outcome.
The opposite. Well, okay. So for example, Rick said that we are, we've been known as the buyers. We're buyers. We're consumers, because Americans, we have a lot of disposable income just as individuals. Right. We also, as business owners, can go and shop for things all over. I mean, that's just part of it. And not that people in other countries can't do that either. But yeah, we are buyers. The thing is that right now, you got to find a way. Because like I said before, we're getting screwed over by everybody else's tariffs. They know that we're just suckers. We're going to pay it, and nothing's going to be done in it's almost like being in a naval battle. One person has cannons, the other one says, "No, we're pacifists, so we can make this work." And you keep getting shot up. but the whole thing here is that how do you call people home? And that's the thing, because long term, I can understand why somebody would say, I'm taking my business out of the United States. I'm going to park it somewhere else, because even if we have a semi-friendly administration here, what's that going to be? I'm going to move my business back to the United States, and then in 4 years, I'm going to have to leave again.
Right.
So long-term forecasting, I can understand why a lot of businesses have just left. I'm going to say, I'm just going to operate somewhere else, and that's it. But right now, this seems like a full-fledged, casting the net, come back home, one way or another. And it's a little bit more aggressive than it is inviting. But they got to lower corporate tax rates. They got to slash taxes and regulations across the board, and get these tariffs up. And yeah, it's of course it's going to flow back, no doubt about it. But I mean, you think about, we are so dependent. There's no reason why we can't be completely dependent for energy, for pharmaceuticals, for car parts here, for anything that is computer based. I mean, we can do everything here, and why not reprioritize? Why would you be against reprioritizing that?
And in a way, these tariffs may also force other countries to do the same thing, and therefore taking care of their people more. Exactly.
They
should. That's the point that, like the people in Canada don't understand. They're mad at Trump. They should be aiming their metaphorical cannons at their own government.
See, here's the thing. Canada, they know they're killing themselves as well. Only thing is, they're looking at America right now saying, hey, we had a fucking suicide pact here.
Right, exactly. What's going on now?
What are you doing? You're not being afraid. We're supposed to be, this is like Ethan Frome.
I know.
We're supposed to be going down the hill, smashing into the wall together to kill ourselves. That's what this whole thing is about here, because Canada should be doing this. Germany should be doing this. Instead, we get this from our so-called friends, which I think this, and we'll take your calls in just a second. This is hilarious. CNBC, here's the headline. Trump will, quote, buckle under pressure, end quote, if Europe bands together over tariffs, German economy minister says.
Boy.
Jay, when I saw this, the first thing I thought of was Russia. Europe and United States, under the so-called Biden administration, banded together to sanction the hell out of Russia. And in turn, what they did was they created a fully economically autonomous Russia.
Exactly.
And they also improved their military greatly as well. Now, Europe, without the U.S., is going to band together to put the screws to us? I mean, what kind of a promise is that you're going to make us stronger economically?
It's unbelievable. It's like wishful thinking.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you can only look at a headline like that and laugh if you believe that the world standing against Russia has been completely successful.
Right.
If you believe that we have come out of this stronger and that the Ukraine war that's what I'm saying. These headlines are, you have to go to the school of hard knocks to learn how to read them.
And I heard an interview with this guy. I don't even remember his name. He was like some podcast guy, but he's ex-CIA. And he came out, and one of his talking points was that Russia's economy has been decimated because of everything that's gone on over the last 4 years and by the war in Ukraine. Now, I'm not an expert in the Russian economy, but I know that every bit of economic warfare that was waged against them only made them stronger, because that's what happens. You're just forced to internalize everything. And so I just think this is wild. And on the way here, I was listening to a guy, again, who's not an economist, but he studies macroeconomics. And he was saying, I can't get inside Trump's head, but maybe part of this is in order to help bring down tariffs around the world to level the playing field. It could serve dual purposes, but one of those reasons may be to kind of get everybody to drop their tariffs and level the playing field. He said, I'm not sure. That would be a good thing, but we have to let this play out. Again, we go back to the partisan hacks that just hate everything Trump does. Like I say, if Trump were to save your child, your house was on fire, Trump rushed in, saved your child, some people would say, friggin' Trump putting firefighters out of business. There's just nothing he can do to make people happy. And in fact, I think he said that at one of, where was he when he was saying that? There was some address that he was giving recently where he said, it was that sort of, it wasn't the State of the Union, it was the address to Congress, where he said, there's nothing I can do to make these people smile or make these people happy. That's the truth. And that's really sad, because once upon a time, it wasn't like that. There were some differences between the parties, and we all know about the uniparty, but this has reached another level, like I said, where people will actually vote against their own self-interest. If Donald Trump is doing one thing that could benefit them, they won't accept it because it's Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got there.
I don't know either. And for what it's worth, because Adel and Zach told me this a couple hours ago. I said, what has been, who has responded to these tariffs just within the last 24 hours? And what they gave me and what I'm looking at, so apparently Israel.
Yeah, they dropped theirs, I think.
Yeah, apparently Israel is lifting all tariffs on U.S.
This is going to start to happen.
They had a very Masonic 33% tariff on us.
Get out of here,
and
really?
Part of the chart, it was 33% from them, and then Trump put 17 on them. And apparently, just from things that are getting around, we'll see what happens. But I saw that Israel might be lifting all tariffs.
I think that's going to start to happen over the next few weeks, at least.
Vietnam,
some countries will hold out longer, but yeah.
I saw Vietnam stating it's going to cut tariffs on several products. India, Switzerland allegedly eliminated eliminating all tariffs on U.S. products. I mean, that shit's going to happen.
I think Canada offered the same thing. They said we'll stop our tariffs if the United States doesn't implement theirs. It's like maybe that was the whole point. Maybe that was the whole point. Just let it play out for more than 24 hours. This time we live in where there must be, I must have a take, I must have an initial outrageous reaction. It just limits your ability to use your frontal lobe and think through a problem. And it's really just kind of unbecoming of everybody. There's no need to react to everything so in such an extreme manner.
Yeah,
just let it sit for a second.
All right, let's take another call. 319, Marcus. How are you, Marcus?
Frank, is it okay to talk on my truck?
Yeah, you sound pretty good. Just speak up and you'll do fine. This call quality sounds good.
Okay, great, good. So, do you want to get back to the topic of glyphosate?
Sure.
Because I live in. Okay, first of all, I live in Iowa, so don't hate on all Iowans.
Listen, he wasn't actually from Iowa. He's very squirrely. He has a proxy number or whatever.
You're the man. Hey, and other than that, I felt like a stalker, like the worst kind. I've been calling like ever since that. Anyway, genetic drift is when a GMO corn is in a field and the wind blows and the pollen from that cornfield transfers into like an organic field and pollinates that. So glyphosate is just a Roundup Ready, which is Roundup. It's like it's a chemical that kills all the weeds, but doesn't kill the corn. So it's good for us. But I will say in Iowa, it's incredible how much advertising is being done currently to save glyphosate.
Wow.
It's insane. Every billboard from the southern tip to the northern tip to the east to the west, fight for glyphosate. It's just
Caller, what's the campaign? What's the ad campaign? What's the one thing that they're using to say we must save this chemical?
Profit. You think food costs are bad now? Ban glyphosate and you'll see what it's going to cost.
Damn.
It's incredible. And there's actually a bill going through the House in Iowa right now. I know a lot of guys that are opposed to it, a lot of people that I'm friends with and so on at the state. As I'm a county supervisor, so I do a lot of local politics, and I get to talk to all these guys, and they're all talking to me about it too. Not all of them, but the guys I know. Anyway,
well,
it's pretty.
No, that's just that's peak.
Farm Bureau presence.
No, that's peak right there. I mean, we're Marcus. We were talking about this before. With you have people getting on social media and slugging, vegetable oil, or somebody going and making the outrageous claim that we're going to give all of our children cavities because we don't have, teach your children how to eat healthy and brush their teeth. I don't know. Anyway, Marcus, thanks for the call. We have to be a little bit more tidy tonight because I don't want to bleed over on Badlands, but it's just Wednesday night. It's great. Let me get into the super chats real quick. All right, we have Badlands Rumble Rants. Wow.
All right.
Quite frankly, Rumble Rants gotta
step up your game.
Gotta compete a little bit here. S. Jones says, "Welcome to Badlands." Thank you, Jones.
Yeah, thank you.
Silly Boar. Oh, I know him. Or her. I don't know. I've been getting everybody mixed up.
Don't misgender your super chats, Frank.
Great seeing Quite Frankly on Badlands. Been watching Frank since 2018, I think. Oh, I know. I've seen you around. Thanks for bringing Jamiroquai Gulanello in for tonight. Frank,
love that one.
I'm gonna guess Jay's name at some point. They didn't hear that show, I guess. Mima Hunter says, "I love seeing you on Badlands. In addition to taking it back, best of everything, bringing Quite Frankly to the mix." I'm happy to be here, and I was talking to John Harold, and we're going to see how it works out in April. I'd love to. I have him on the books to be a Thursday night guest in May, but let's see how April works, and hopefully we're still doing it on Thursdays in May. But I love it, and it's great to have an affiliate and an ally, and I love a lot of the people at the media complex here. Captain Wiggle says, for birthday treat, also congrats on the new Badlands show. And Seaside Lady says, happy belated birthday, Frank. Welcome to Badlands. So welcoming.
Yeah.
Thank you. May says, May 17 says, yay, quite frankly, welcome to Badlands. Well, thank you. Poso for Hope says, all of our so-called elected offices sold us out. Trump told us bypassing fake news. And that's all. Okay, so no more, because I don't want to miss any. Jay Semo over on Quite Frankly Rumble, thank you for the rant. Thank you, Jay Semo. And again, thank you, Jay Britz on Quite Frankly Superchat.com. So here's what we have for tonight. Oh, Madam Mayhem, Sean Joe, 123 SKG, C Blanche, and Sean Joe again on quitefrankly.tv. That's powered by Pilled. And here's just a little bit for you after the fact. Tonight, for the after hours, Mark Dice, Gerald Salente and Judge Napolitano, Michael Knowles speaks at Yale, Jason Burmis, Really Graceful, what we just played here, It's History, Crazy Days and Nights, and Jesse Michaels, Telepathy Tapes documentary. So that's all after hours. And for everybody else, thank you so much for the time here tonight. Jay, thank you for being here with me.
Oh, my pleasure.
And we'll figure out somewhere, later on in the month for you to come back. You got to come by at least once a month.
Okay.
I'm
here. As long as I'm here, I'm here.
Oh, great. So we'll work this out. We have to. And again, thank you to everybody wherever you watch, and especially just because it's a special night with the first time with Badlands for the Thursday night. Enjoy a robust evening of programming over there as well. And I hope to see you again sometime soon, perhaps next Thursday, perhaps tomorrow night. We're live Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. You can catch us anywhere. And yeah. Good night, everybody. Have a good one.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Will you shut up? No.
I know.